Hey guitar fanatics, if you've been playing for any time at all, you're probably familiar with the pentatonic scale. It's easily the most used scale across all genres of music. One thing I see a lot with students, as they start to get a little more experience, they start to see the pentatonic scale is too simple, and they want to move on to what they think are more advanced scales and patterns. Well, I think they're making a big mistake. I see amazing virtuoso players like Guthrie Govan and Mateus Asado making incredible music with pentatonic scales. And of course, all-time greats like Eric Johnson, Joe Bonamassa, and Eric Gales use the pentatonic scale as a main component of their lead guitar vocabulary. But these great players aren't just learning a box pattern or two and stopping there. They might take a pentatonic scale, add a note or two to get different sounds out of it, and very often they're playing pentatonic scales over different chords than they normally might, which allows them to get modal sounds without having to think about modal scale patterns. I'm going to show you some of these pro secrets today, and if you apply this stuff, it's got the potential to totally change your sound and give you unlimited soloing ideas. All the while using patterns that you probably already know. I can't wait to get started. Let's do this thing and play some guitar. The way we're going to do this, we're going to take a look at the three most common chord types: major, major seventh, minor, minor seventh, and dominant seventh. And we're going to learn multiple different pentatonic ideas over each chord type. First though, let's do a quick review of the pentatonic scale itself. We'll start with the minor pentatonic, and we're going to use A minor because there's no sharps or flats. So for minor pentatonic, we've got the scale formula: root, minor third, fourth, fifth, and flat seven. So A minor pentatonic has the notes A, C, D, E, and G. And here's pattern 1 at the 5th fret. Now to get pattern 2, we're going to start on the 2nd note of the scale, or C. Going to the 8th fret, we have this shape. To get pattern 3, we're going to start on the 3rd note, or D, and at the 10th fret, we get this shape. Pattern 4 starts on the E at the 12th fret and looks like this. Pattern 5 starts on the G at the 15th fret and looks like this. And the first thing I would do to really get these patterns down is to practice ascending through a pattern like pattern 1, and then sliding up into pattern 2 and descending. Shifting to pattern 3, ascending. Shifting to pattern 4 and descending. Shifting to pattern 5 and ascending. And so on until you've covered the entire fretboard. Now you want to practice this stuff until it's automatic and you can do it literally with your eyes closed and without thinking about it. If you can't do that, frankly, you don't know the scale well enough yet. You got to put in that work. Now to get the major pentatonic, we're going to take the shapes that we just learned, but we're going to make the C note our root note. A was obviously the root of A minor pentatonic scale. A minor is what we refer to as the relative minor of C major. To find the relative minor scale, you start at the root of a major scale like C, and you count down the fretboard 3 frets. That gives us an A. And of course, the opposite is true. C, or the relative major, sits up the fretboard 3 frets from the root of the relative minor, going from A to C. Because C is now the root, our scale formula is going to change. The major pentatonic has the intervals the root, the 2nd, the major 3rd, the 5th, and the 6th. And here's the first kind of aha moment. A minor pentatonic and C major pentatonic have the exact same notes, but we play those notes over an A minor chord and they sound sad. And when we play them over a major chord, C major, they're going to sound happy. The takeaway is when you change the chord that you're playing over, the function of the notes of the scale changes. Like C is the minor third of an A minor chord, but it's the root of a C major chord. I can't emphasize the importance of this concept enough, and make sure you understand what I'm saying before you go any further. All the little secret moves that we're going to discuss going forward in the video involve messing with the function of the notes we're playing, which is a fancy way of saying we're going to change how we use certain notes to get different sounds. Now that we've got some notes to play and some conceptual understanding, let's look at some cool ways of using pentatonics over major and major seventh chords. Now, the first and most obvious way of using pentatonics over a major chord is to play the major pentatonic with the same root as the chord, like C major pentatonic over C major chord. That sounds perfectly fine and correct, and we hear that sound all the time in country music, southern rock, the blues, but it can get boring pretty quickly. Here's the first of our substitution ideas. You can play the minor pentatonic scale up 2 frets or a whole step above the root of a major chord. So in this case, D minor pentatonic over a C chord. D minor pentatonic has notes that aren't in the C major chord, like D, F, and A, and playing those notes creates a little musical tension over a C major chord that sounds really cool, especially when we resolve really well back to C major pentatonic. Check out this little lick where I'm going to play pattern 1 of D minor pentatonic and resolve up to pattern 3 of C major pentatonic. Cool sound. Now the second substitution we're going to use is to play the minor pentatonic up 4 frets or 2 whole steps from the root of a major chord. So in this case, we'll be playing E minor pentatonic over a C major, or especially a C major 7 chord. Now, E minor pentatonic sounds really amazing over C major 7 because it has a B note in it, and B is the major 7 of C. But another reason it sounds so interesting is that there's no C note in E minor pentatonic, and without the C root note, E minor pentatonic has kind of a floating, spacey sound over C major. Now this substitution is a major part of Eric Johnson's sound. I can remember hearing him use it years ago and wondering, what is this exotic scale he's playing? And come to find out, he was just using the good old minor pentatonic, albeit in a different way. Check out how this lick sounds. I'm going to use E minor pentatonic pattern 1 and resolve it to C major pattern 4. Now we can take these concepts a little further and make up licks using D minor, E minor, and C major pentatonic all in the same lick. Here's a lick where I'm going to descend D minor pattern 1, ascend E minor pattern 1, and then descend C major pattern 4. Check it out. I think that sounds great, and let me highlight what we're really doing here. When we combine C major, D minor, and E minor pentatonics to make up a lick, ultimately we're playing all the notes of the C major scale. What makes it different is that all too often when we think of using a scale like the major scale, we end up playing like this. Just running it straight up or down the scale. Using pentatonics with only 2 notes of string, it makes us play differently. We use different patterns and sequences that, to my ears at least, sound far more creative than just straight scale playing. Let's move on to some slick uses of pentatonics over minor and minor 7 chords. Now, over an A minor or A minor 7 chord, remember that A minor is the relative minor of C major. The most obvious way to use pentatonics is to play the minor pentatonic with the same root. So A minor over A minor. We all know this sound, but once again, it can get boring pretty quickly. The first substitution I'm going to suggest is the minor pentatonic up a whole step, so B minor over the A minor chord. What does this do for us? Well, B minor pentatonic has 2 notes that aren't in the A minor pentatonic. We've got a B, which is the 9th of an A, and 9th over a minor chord always sounds great. We also have an F sharp, which is the natural 6th interval of A. Now the natural 6th over a minor chord gives us a modal sound that we think of as the Dorian mode. So mixing B minor and A minor pentatonics is a cool way to get a Dorian sound without thinking about Dorian scale patterns. Check out how it sounds if I just weave in and out of B minor and A minor pentatonic using pattern 1 of both scales over an A minor chord. We can also use the minor pentatonic up a 5th from A. That would be E and E minor pentatonic. Now, E minor pentatonic has just one different note from A minor pentatonic, and that's B, or the 9th again. But that note is enough to give us a different flavor. Here's an E minor triad going to an A minor triad. And that's the sound we get when we make up licks with these 2 scales. Listen to this lick where we're going to use E minor pattern 4 going into A minor pattern 3. And lastly, you know it, we're going to combine A minor, B minor, and E minor to make up a lick. Here's something really different, kind of a Phil X type of lick, where we're going to play a series of 4-note patterns on the B and the E strings. And those notes are going to come from pattern 5 and pattern 1 of B minor, pattern 5 and pattern 1 of E minor, pattern 5 and pattern 1 of A minor. Check this one out. Well, okay, those are some really fun licks. When we play licks that combine 2 or 3 different pentatonic scales, you get a sound that's just different enough to really catch your ear. And it sounds fresh, and it can also sound really beautiful. So we've got some ideas for major and major 7th chords. We've got some ideas for minor and minor 7th chords. Let's go investigate what pentatonics we might be able to play over dominant 7 chords. Dominant 7 chords, which we usually just refer to as C7 or G7, well, they're everywhere in rock, pop, blues, jazz, and country. And they're an interesting chord in that they've got a major 3rd, but they also have that flat 7, so they sound a little darker than a typical major chord. Now, we can play both major and minor pentatonics with the same root over a dominant 7. Here's C major pentatonic followed by C minor pentatonic over a C7 chord. And those 2 scales sound okay, but C major pentatonic is missing the flat 7 or B flat that the C7 chord has in it, and C minor pentatonic has a flat 7, but it also has a flat or minor third, which kind of clashes with the chord. So an easy solution is to find ways to combine the major and minor pentatonic. I could play a lick like this one, where I'm going to start off in C major pentatonic, pattern 5 at the 5th fret. Now I slid into the E at fret 9 of the G string, and I'm in position to play C minor pentatonic, pattern 1. But notice I mixed in the major third or the E note when I was playing in the minor pattern. That mixing of the minor third is an absolute staple for playing good blues, good country, or good southern rock guitar. And it's a nearly endless source of licks all over the neck. Now, as far as substitutions, we can play the minor pentatonic scale up a whole step over the root of our chord, so D minor over C7. D minor pentatonic has the notes D, F, G, A, and C. Well, C minor pentatonic has an F note in it. C major pentatonic has an A note in it. So we can sort of flow easily between all three of these scales. Here's a lick where I'm going to use C minor pentatonic pattern 1 to play a bluesy line where I add in a major third, and then slide into D minor pentatonic pattern 1 and play a descending line, before sliding into C major pentatonic pattern 3 at position 12 to finish things off. Here we go. I really like that sound. Another substitution is to use the minor pentatonic up a 5th interval from the root of our dominant 7 chord. So a 5th above C would be G, so G minor over a C7 chord. G minor pentatonic has the notes G, B flat, C, D, and F. F is the 4th of C, and that makes for a really natural sounding resolution back to C major or C minor pentatonic ideas. I'm going to play a lick here where I'm going to use G minor pattern 1 into C major pattern 5, and lastly C minor pattern 1 to finish things off. That's a pretty killer sounding line. Let's do one last lick combining G minor, D minor, C minor, and C major pentatonic over that C7 chord. Let's play G minor pattern 1, D minor pattern 4, C minor pattern 4, finishing with C major pattern 4. Here's our lick using parts of those 4 scales over a C7 chord. So, as usual, I've probably packed way too much into one video, but there's enough info here to keep you busy making up licks for a long, long time. Practice moving through the scales in the positions all over the neck, trying to flow from one scale to another over the 3 different types of chords. Imagine how much vocabulary you can develop if you just write one lick a week over each type of chord. In 1 year, that's 156 different licks. Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below about things that you'd like to learn. Have a great time practicing this stuff. I'll see you again soon. Bye.